Let's go to the other ones. I don't want, bro, I don't want to die.
Yeah, I think I'm really good to get a move on sooner than later.
What is that? No, it's a stipend. Is that a stipend? That's a stipend. Oh my god. Whoa.
Encounters in the wilderness rarely follow expectations. In one case, a camper hears a scream coming from deep inside an abandoned campground late at night. In another, a man gathering firewood suddenly faces a charging brown bear. Situations like these highlight how quickly the environment around us can change. When something unexpected appears in the dark, the real question becomes simple. Do you stay or get out? On the Creepy Travels channel, many of the creators' videos document simple overnight stays in remote areas of the Cumberland Plateau. But during one outing, events quickly began to feel far more unsettling. On December 8th, 2025, the plan had originally been to sleep inside his vehicle. However, after realizing that his hammock was still in the back, he chose to walk down toward a nearby creek and hang it there instead of spending the night beside the road. As soon as he stepped onto the trail, a scream rang out from deeper within the woods.
We ain't having this. We are not having this. We are camping.
The noise immediately stopped him. Only minutes earlier, a car had been driving away from the area as he arrived to something unusual for such a remote location. He ignored it and kept walking, although he mentioned more than once that it felt strange to encounter anyone out here. While searching for 2 trees sturdy enough for the hammock, he passed old chair frames, abandoned backpacks, and scattered remains of what had once been a private campground. The place had been deserted for years, and fragments of the former campsite were still visible across the ground. After locating suitable trees, he hung the hammock and settled in. But just when everything began to feel normal, the uneasy atmosphere returned.
Let's try this, people. Yes, that car come back. It's where you park at, walk down way out that way, but I just saw some at that rock bluff right there. He had a black shirt, and I know that when they was pulling out, the guy had a black shirt on. This guy looked like he had a black shirt on. Might come back for his screaming wife.
Before going to sleep, he walked through the old campground layout, pointing out collapsed tents, rusted sinks, and the remains of a small bridge. He also explained where the shower area had once stood, and where campers used to pitch their tents, before the location was eventually abandoned. Years earlier, one camper reportedly woke up to something touching his foot through an unzipped tent. After that, people gradually stopped using the site. By the time he finally went to bed, everything seemed quiet again, and he expected only a light sleep while listening for ordinary forest sounds. But around 3 a.m., he suddenly woke up. He heard movement in the water and the snap of branches nearby. It felt as though someone or something was moving around him in the darkness. The noises weren't constant, but they happened often enough to keep him listening. Each rustle and every cracking branch made him tense, wondering what might be out there. Soon the sound seemed to move closer, echoing around the empty campground. With work waiting the next day, he began packing his gear in the dark, still thinking about the earlier scream, the footsteps near the creek, and the man in the black shirt he believed he had seen twice. Deer usually didn't give him that kind of feeling, but something about the noise left him uneasy. He left before sunrise, ending the night without any final incident, only the lingering sense that the place never truly settled. Sometimes sounds in the woods have simple explanations, but when events line up like this, the situation can feel different. If you heard those sounds outside your camp in the middle of the night, would you stay or quietly leave? On January 25th, 2026, one of the most unsettling wildlife videos ever captured was uploaded to YouTube. In the footage, a man stands in the forest near his home, chopping firewood, while his dog remains close beside him. At first, the scene looks completely normal. The woods are still and nothing appears unusual, but within moments, everything suddenly changes. Without warning, a huge brown bear bursts out and charges directly toward him. The animal rushes forward not once but twice. Armed with nothing more than an axe, the man swings it outward, trying to scare the animal away. It is a pure survival reaction, leaving no time to think. Somehow the move works. The bear pulls back and disappears into the trees, leaving the man shaken but unharmed. Still, the moment feels deeply unsettling because an encounter like this could have easily ended much worse. When a bear that large decides to attack, people rarely get a second chance. Situations like this show how quickly a peaceful moment in the wilderness can become dangerous. Sometimes instinct and timing are all that stand between safety and disaster. If the bear had kept charging, would there have been any real way to stop it? Matthew Stone and his father were hiking deep inside Glacier National Park when they stopped at a quiet campsite to rest. The area felt calm and peaceful, surrounded by dense forest and open space. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then the atmosphere in the woods suddenly changed. From the shadows between the trees, two massive grizzly bears slowly stepped into view. The peaceful break instantly turned tense.
We're just playing. So yeah, I think I'm pretty good to get a move on sooner than later. Yep. Hey, bears.
Instead, the father and son remained still, carefully controlling their breathing and movements. The grizzlies approached with slow, deliberate steps. They did not show immediate aggression, but their enormous size alone made the situation serious.
Hey, we're good. We're good here. We're good. Hey there.
The bears lifted their noses and sniffed the air, their heads moving slightly as they studied the hikers with focused, intelligent eyes. The silence in the clearing felt heavy, as if every second stretched longer than usual. Speaking quietly and calmly, Matthew and his father made soft sounds, so the bears would recognize their presence without feeling threatened.
You're just curious. Just slowly, don't go towards them. Hey, bears.
The animals continued watching them, ears twitching, while their attention stayed fixed on the two hikers. Slowly and carefully, the pair began to step backward. They never turned their backs and never rushed. Every movement was controlled. The bears followed their retreat with cautious curiosity for a few moments. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the grizzlies lost interest and wandered back into the forest. The entire encounter lasted only a few minutes, but for Matthew and his father, it felt much longer. By remaining calm and paying attention to the bears' behavior, they managed to avoid panic and leave the area safely. Grizzly bears are among the most dangerous predators in North America. They can run up to 35 miles per hour and strike with powerful claws. Encounters like this show how quickly a quiet moment in the wilderness can become dangerous. When a predator decides to approach in its own territory, are you truly in control of the situation, or simply hoping the animal chooses to walk away? Emery House and her friends were visiting Utah from Minnesota when a desert hike led them to something completely unexpected, an object that clearly did not belong in such a remote place.
They've cut it in? Okay. Who does this kind of stuff? Yeah.
It's interesting how it comes right. It's right at.
Yeah.
Pointed right at the.
That is just wild. Huh.
We gotta see if there's any writing. Heck is that?
When they moved closer, it became clear that the structure had been deliberately installed. The ground had been cut and shaped to place it there, raising questions about who would go through the effort of setting something like this up in the middle of the desert. Standing before them was a smooth metallic pillar, rising about 10 feet out of the ground. Its surface was cold and reflective with no marking symbols or writing anywhere on it, which only made the discovery more mysterious. Even stranger, no one knew how it appeared there, who installed it, or what its purpose might have been. Authorities were never able to identify the person responsible. The object soon became known as the Utah monolith, and the discovery quickly spread across the internet. Because it appeared suddenly in such an isolated desert location, many conspiracy theories began circulating. Some suggested an alien origin, others believed it might be part of a secret government experiment, or even something connected to another dimension. Despite the speculation, none of these ideas were ever confirmed. After the story went viral, online crowds of visitors began traveling to see the monolith. Then, just 10 days later, it suddenly disappeared. Reports later revealed that a group removed it due to concerns about environmental damage caused by the growing number of visitors. Even with that explanation, the mystery still feels unresolved. What do you think it really was? And why was it placed so far from everything? The YouTube channel Rachel and Tommy returned in October 2021 to Tishomingo Wildlife Management Area, a location where they had previously camped and experienced a few unsettling moments during an earlier visit. This time they planned to spend the night there again, bringing their dog Badger along to see how the trip would unfold.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Here at the Tishomingo Wildlife Management Area Refuge. I've actually been here before, and got a little creeped out here last time. But here's the thing: he's running around being Badger, obviously, but he's been very skittish since we got here.
Yeah.
Like he'll just take off running and not like doing zoomies running, like. But he comes down this little ravine down here, and
He won't go any further. Like
no, and then he'll like get all skittish and run off. I'm not sure what's going on, but we're gonna stay here tonight and find out.
Jay.
Soon after arriving, Badger began acting uneasy and refused to move beyond a certain point near a ravine. Since they had already visited this same area before and noticed unusual things during that trip, the dog's reaction felt even more noticeable.
Well, last time we were here, there was a crow walking around in the van. I don't know, maybe a raccoon was like walked under the van and hit the bottom of, like hit the frame hard enough to like kind of move the van. That'll wake you up. You know, if a raccoon runs into your house, you're like, I have no idea that a raccoon ran into my house. You know,
Yeah, you would know that.
you're a little more acutely aware of your surroundings. We're definitely going to keep you posted.
Yeah, because he won't go any further. He'll look out there and I don't know. He's just
Yeah.
skittish.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Where are you hearing it, honey?
Everywhere. I mean, like in this area. Now he'll come over here, but he won't go over there.
Yeah, over there. He's like, nope. See?
Yeah, he.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's definitely a weird. Noises across the lake. I'm gonna walk down here and see.
Camping in wildlife management areas means sharing the environment with animals and hearing sounds that are not always easy to identify. Dogs often sense things people may overlook, and their behavior can sometimes be harmless, or it can quietly signal that something nearby deserves attention.
I know there are turkeys out here. We've been out in the woods a lot. We know the sounds. What we're hearing are not regular sounds. And usually you can hear birds, you can hear critters. But when you're hearing other noises and you're not hearing critters, yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure. We're going to stick it out. You know, we have no problem running off, or not running off. We have no problem starting the van and driving out of here and going to find another place to stay. I don't feel like we're going to have to do that. I mean, do you feel like that, honey?
What?
Like we need to go somewhere else? Yeah, like I said, we haven't heard critters. I mean, we heard a duck, but we haven't heard critters. Creatures, yeah. I just heard something again back over that way. Last time we were here, there were turkeys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe we're
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to. I don't let myself get freaked out.
Yeah.
'Cause I know for 99.99 things that you hear, there's an explanation. So, don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're sitting here just enjoying the peace and quiet. We keep hearing weird sounds. No clue what they are. Badger's been skittish again, like we said. Like he'll just look off in the woods and stop and just stare. It's eerily quiet out here.
Now that was a duck.
Like, obviously there are raccoons and possums, whatever else out here. I mean, we're in the woods. A little disconcerted. And then it's starting to sprinkle.
A little bit.
It's supposed to storm later. Again, I'm not worried, but it's a little creepy. It'll be fine. It will.
So we've been sitting here in the van, lights off, just playing on our phones. We have the windows down, but we're just sitting in the van. And I keep hearing something out in front of the van. So let me turn the LED lights on real quick and see if there's no. It's all good so far, I guess. I mean, it's got to be good. I'm not really worried about it. But
so I locked Badger out of the van because we're sitting out here. This boy got up in Rachel's whole lap because he's afraid of. Well, he's staring in what specific direction right now?
Living in a van also makes people far more aware of their surroundings than they might be in a house. Certain nights raise simple questions about instinct and patience. When the forest becomes quiet and something suddenly feels off, do you trust that feeling enough to leave or stay and find out what might be out there? The following clip comes from It's Bates, a YouTube channel known for filming nighttime forest explorations, camping challenges, and fear-based paranormal-style games. The footage was recorded on September 8, 2022, in an open field near a wooded area and a nearby construction site. Two members of the group prepared to leave their tent and move toward the forest. The night is cold and extremely dark. The open field offers almost no cover, and the tree line ahead appears nearly black. As they begin walking, distant alarms and faint sounds echo through the surrounding area. The noises bounce across the open space, making it difficult to tell where they are actually coming from.
Don't come back because I heard the sound from there earlier.
What if no one comes back?
Well, I swear I keep seeing things. Even though it's the scariest thing ever. Wait! This is the construction site, the alarm might go on.
No, but we're not in the building. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I do. Let's just hide. Crouch. Me, same, I'm shivering.
While moving forward, the group discusses the rules for their Midnight Demons tag game, trying to stay calm. However, the quiet surroundings make every small sound seem louder as they approach the woods.
What is that?
Where?
Oh, this is disturbance. Is that a disturbance? That's a disturbance. Oh my god. Yo. Oh my god. Thank god, it's disturbance. What?
Did you see something?
I don't know. We saw like a red thing and then we heard something.
I was in the middle of the field. I was trying to get to you guys. I went to the forest area back there.
Yeah.
Like all the way back there.
Yeah.
And I swear I heard
Wait, you went all the way back there?
like you see this forest, like big trees.
Yeah.
Suddenly, one member notices what appears to be a red light, or possibly a figure far in the distance. The group reacts immediately, unsure whether it might be one of their friends or something else entirely. Later, one person admits they had tried to scare the others as part of the game. However, the earlier sounds coming from the forest are never clearly explained. The group eventually decides to stay inside the tent for the remainder of the night while discussing what happened during the game. Although some moments later turn out to be pranks, the darkness of the open field and the constant background noises make the entire experience feel much more intense than expected. In places like that, even small sounds can influence how people react. If you had been standing in that dark field, would you have walked toward the woods or stayed inside the tent? The next unsettling video of the night comes from Aaron Evans, a UK-based adventure and exploration vlogger who investigates haunted forest caves and locations tied to local folklore, often accompanied by his dog Bailey. His channel focuses on immersive real-time experiences that combine outdoor adventure camping and paranormal exploration. The footage takes place on August 2nd, 2025 in the United Kingdom. Aaron and his group begin their trip by visiting a tower connected to the legend of Lady Sally, but when they arrive, they discover the entrance is locked. A local resident suggests another location nearby a cave system believed to be the only accessible part of the area. The group decides to explore the caves instead. As they approach the entrance, they move cautiously, aware that the tunnels could be narrow or unstable. Bailey stays close and confidently moves ahead as they prepare to enter.
This is insane. Let's go to the other ones. I don't want, bro, I don't want to die. This is scary. Bro, it opens up even more. Oh my god, it goes further. Okay, let's go.
Inside the cave system, the passages quickly tighten before opening into wider chambers. Low ceilings and uneven ground force the group to move slowly and carefully. One member mentions feeling uneasy in the confined space while Bailey continues forward without hesitation. The darkness, echoing footsteps, and narrow tunnels create a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere as they move deeper through the caves.
Looks like a witch's tree. We've decided that this spot here is going to be home for the night. Right next to the spooky tree. There's like a branch, basically a tree, leaning up against the oak tree, but it's fallen over and the only thing that's holding up is the oak tree. So we're just going to move over like to this spot here.
After leaving the cave system, the group sets up camp near a twisted tree that locals call the Witch's Tree. Using a stone fire pit, they cook food and settle in for the night. However, the forest begins to feel increasingly uneasy as daylight fades. Small noises from the surrounding woods and shifting shadows make the area feel more isolated than expected.
Good morning. Well, I didn't sleep very well last night. I could hear this like weird sort of screeching, barking, and then on top of that as well, Bailey was just like sat up almost like all night long. So I don't know what that was about.
Later that night, strange screeching sounds echo through the forest. The noises resemble animals, but seem unusually loud and close. Bailey becomes alert, watching the tree line and reacting to movement the group cannot clearly see. No figures appear, but the atmosphere remains tense enough to keep everyone awake. By morning, the group packs up their camp and travels to a nearby churchyard in search of Sally's grave. Many of the headstones are worn and difficult to read, and they cannot confirm the exact location. The visit to Sally in the woods ends without answers. Sometimes places tied to old stories feel different once night falls, even when nothing clearly appears on camera. If you had spent the night there and heard those sounds in the forest, would you have stayed until morning or left the campsite early? In May 2025, what began as a simple camping trip ended in tragedy. Two Arizona high school students, 18-year-old Pandora Cayos Rude and 17-year-old Evan Clark, both students at Arcadia High School, planned a short day trip to the Mount Ord area of Tano National Forest. They left on May 25th, 2025, expecting to return the following day. However, the two teenagers never came back. After they were reported missing, authorities launched a search effort. On May 27th, 2025, their bodies were discovered near a campsite in the remote Mount Ord region. The discovery quickly raised serious concerns, and investigators began trying to determine what had taken place during the time the teens were missing. Evidence collected at the scene, including DNA, eventually pointed investigators toward 31-year-old Thomas Brown. According to authorities, his DNA was linked not only to the victims, but also to their vehicle and other nearby evidence. Brown was later arrested and now faces 2 counts of first-degree murder. He is currently being held on a $2 million cash-only bond, while the investigation and legal process continue. The case is a reminder of how quickly an ordinary outdoor trip can turn into something far more dangerous. What do you think might have happened during those missing days? A man was traveling through a remote desert area of the Arabian Peninsula when he noticed something unusual in the distance that he believed might be an Abufanu.
أبوفانوس هذا أبوفانوس شفتوا اللي الشير هذا أبوفانوس واضح أبوفانوس شوفوا الحين يبدأ يختفي شوفوا بدأ يكبس شوفوا يختفي شفتوا شوف هذا موقع أبوفانوس الحال غير المواقع الاستراحات شوفوا اختفى شوفوا بدأ يختفي شوفوا الحين يختفي عشان تعرفون أبوفانوس في واحد من الشباب شوف ولع شفت ولع الثاني شوف هذا الجن ابو فانوس، سم رب الكعبه انه جن ابو فانوس، حلفت لكم بالله. شوفوا شفتوه؟ هذا ابو فانوس، شوف قاعد يكبس. طلعوا الشله، طلعوا. شفتوهم؟ ابو فانوس.
In regional folklore, Abufanu is described as a strange light that appears at night and slowly drifts across the landscape. The phenomenon is often linked to jinn and is said to mislead or confuse people traveling through the desert. According to traditional stories, the glowing light can lure travelers away from their path and lead them into danger, including hidden pits, uneven terrain, or complete disorientation. Some accounts even claim that people who tried to follow the light became lost, exhausted, and unable to find their way back. Do you think it was truly an Abufanu, or might there be another explanation? In 1960, a quiet stretch of the Arizona desert became the scene of a disturbing discovery. A school teacher walking near Sand Creek Wash, close to the town of Congress, Arizona, came across the remains of a young girl. No one knew who she was. There was no matching missing person report, no identification, and almost no evidence to follow. With no identity to give her, authorities assigned a temporary name, Little Miss Nobody. For decades, the case remained one of Arizona's most heartbreaking mysteries. Despite years of investigation, officials were unable to determine the child's identity or where she'd come from. More than 60 years later, advances in forensic science allowed the case to be reopened. In 2022, investigators used modern DNA analysis and genetic genealogy to finally identify the young girl. Her name was Sharon Lee Gallegos, a 4-year-old from New Mexico. On July 21st, 1960, Sharon had been playing in her grandmother's backyard in Albuquerque when she was taken. Witnesses reported seeing her leave with a woman possibly accompanied by a man, but no clear suspect was ever identified. 10 days later, on July 31st, 1960, Sharon's remains were discovered in the Arizona desert more than 500 miles from where she had disappeared. The distance between the two locations only deepened the mystery surrounding the case. Although Sharon finally has her name again, justice has not yet been achieved. Her death is still being investigated and no arrests have been made. After more than 6 decades, Little Miss Nobody was no longer nobody, but the search for answers continues. That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story, share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.